Imagine waking up in a completely different world. A world where nobody gives you a strange look for choosing silence at a party. A world where memorizing every single detail about a subject you love is not seen as obsession, but celebrated as extraordinary talent. A world where the intensity with which you feel things does not need to be hidden, disguised, or medicated away. This world lives in our imagination, but what would actually happen if it were real? What would change if all of humanity thought, felt, and built like an autistic mind? Let's explore that together. At first, let's talk about cities. In a world built by autistics, cities would be completely reimagined. Forget loud shopping malls, chaotic streets, and open-plan offices where everyone talks at the same time. Cities would be designed with silent zones, controlled lighting, and environments with precise sensory inputs. Every space would have a clear and unambiguous purpose. You would know exactly what to expect before entering any building, any room, any street. That constant feeling of sensory overload that so many autistics experience today would not exist, because the environment would have been designed to work with the human nervous system, not against it. Public transportation would run on exact schedules with zero delays and zero surprises. And when changes did occur, there would be clear, advanced communication, no unexpected disruptions. You know that anxiety of not knowing what is going to happen next? In an autistic world, predictability would be a core social value, not an individual weakness to be managed or ashamed of. Now think about education. This is where the transformation would be most radical. The school system, as we know it today, was built for one specific type of mind. The mind that learns in a linear way, sits still for hours, follows the group pace, socializes effortlessly, and demonstrates intelligence through standardized tests. An autistic child inside that system is often seen as a problem, as someone who does not fit, someone who needs to be fixed or corrected. But in a world built by autistics, school would be the complete opposite of that. Every child would learn at their own pace, diving deep into subjects that ignite their hyperfocus. Memorization would be celebrated. Detailed thinking would be taught as a core skill. The child who spends hours studying a single topic would not be called obsessive. They would be called a specialist in training. And the teachers? They would be experts at identifying the processing style of every individual mind. Some minds learned through images, others through patterns, others through sound and rhythm. In the world we are imagining, neurodiversity would not be a challenge to be managed. It would be the very starting point of the entire educational system. Now let's talk about science and technology. This is where an autistic world would shine in ways no other model could ever match. Think about the capacity for hyperfocus. Think about the ability to detect patterns that others simply cannot see. Think about radical honesty, the refusal to accept vague answers, the relentless insistence on understanding how things truly work beneath the surface. These are the exact characteristics that built the greatest discoveries in human history. Newton, Tesla, Einstein, Turing. Minds that many historians and researchers today associate with the autism spectrum. Minds that permanently changed the course of civilization precisely because they processed the world differently from everyone around them. In a world built by autistics, science would not be trapped inside bureaucracy, politics, or appearances. It would be trapped only by the truth, by the relentless pursuit of the correct answer. Technological progress would be exponential because the minds in charge would not be distracted by social games, by what others think, by the image they need to maintain. They would be locked onto the problem, always the problem, only the problem. Now we reach a part that surprises most people when they think about autism.
What's on your mind?
Relationships. There is an enormous myth that autistic people cannot connect emotionally with others. This is one of the biggest pieces of misinformation that exists about the spectrum. The truth is that autistic people feel emotions with an intensity that most people will never come close to experiencing. The difference lies in how that emotion is expressed and processed. In a world built by autistics, communication would be direct, without hidden meanings, without power games, without those conversations where nobody says what they actually mean. You would know exactly where you stand with every single person in your life. There would be no social performance of pretending to be fine when you are not, of saying one thing and wanting another, of smiling out of obligation. Relationships would be built on radical honesty, and yes, that would feel uncomfortable at first for anyone accustomed to the social diplomacy of today's world. But over time, it would be deeply liberating. Imagine trusting completely what people say, because they always say exactly what they think. Imagine never again wondering what someone meant by that comment. Imagine a world with no hidden agenda and no double meaning in anything, but not everything would be perfect. It would be dishonest to imagine a utopia without problems. In a world where everyone processes reality in a similar way, what would happen to flexibility when the unpredictable strikes? Global crises demand rapid adaptation, improvisation, and controlled chaos. And what about nonverbal communication? The spontaneous smiles, the unexpected hugs, the small daily human connections that many autistics find difficult to process. Would it be a colder world emotionally for some people? These are real and honest questions that this mental experiment forces us to confront. The most honest answer is that a world built exclusively by one single type of mind, whether autistic or not, would always be incomplete. The brilliance of the autistic spectrum does not lie in replacing other ways of thinking. It lies in being included as an essential part of the human mosaic. And here is the central point of everything we just explored. The problem was never the autistic mind. The problem was a world that was built entirely without it. Every time society ignores, medicates, excludes, or shames an autistic mind, it is wasting exactly the type of thinking that solves humanity's most complex problems. The hyperfocus that gets treated as a behavioral problem in the classroom is the very same mechanism that, when given direction and space, produces scientific breakthroughs, unforgettable works of art, and revolutionary technological solutions. So the next time someone calls an autistic mind difficult, strange, or too intense, remember this mental experiment. Remember what happens when that mind is given space, structure, and the freedom to function exactly the way it was built to function. The world you just imagined is not a fantasy. It is a reminder of what becomes possible when we stop trying to fix what was never broken.